Edgar Allan Poe was a man familiar with grief. He penned the famous poem, The Raven, about death and loss. A raven perches just above a man's chamber door, there to remind him of his lost love, Lenore. The raven speaks one word, nevermore. No matter how the man pleads, the raven always replies, nevermore. Finally the man cries, "Leave no black token of a lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Nevermore is such a hopeless word. Death is such a hopeless concept. Christianity claims, if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. There are two main views in Christianity, Calvinism and Arminianism. I'd like to explain them by reading this article, Does God Play Favorites?, from the NIV Study Bible. First, Arminianism. Some hold the view that God elects some to be saved because he knows beforehand that they will choose to accept Christ. Their election, according to this view, is based on God's foreknowledge. And now Calvinism. Others conclude that God in his wise and sovereign will chooses some, but not others, for reasons we cannot understand. His selection may seem unfair, but that is simply because we have a limited perspective. Humans, bound in sin, do not naturally seek God. But when God's grace comes to the elect, it frees them to choose God. The problem with Calvinism and Arminianism is the doctrine of eternal torment. You see, if God is either unwilling or unable to save everyone, then this raises some serious questions about the character and power of God. If God knew before all time that the majority of humanity would spend eternity in hell, why did he create them in the first place? I'll continue reading. Difficult questions continue to confound us. In the end, we may need to confess that our understanding is limited, that we may be missing some key part of God's plan that would allow us to understand. We already know that Christianity claims if you confess and believe, you'll be saved. So then, the burning question is, who will confess and believe? According to Isaiah, God says, "By myself I have sworn, my mouth has uttered in all integrity a word that will not be revoked. Before me every knee will bow, by me every tongue will swear. They will say of me, in the Lord alone are righteousness and strength." Anyone who's played the game of telephone knows that the closer you are to the original source of the information, the more likely it is that your information is accurate. That's why it's important for us to take a look at what the early church believed. There were 6 schools in the early church. 4 of them taught Jesus will save all. 2 of them taught Jesus will not save all. Of the 2, Ephesus taught annihilation. Only Rome taught eternal torment. To give you a better idea of what was taught in the 4 schools, I'll quote 2 of the leaders from Alexandria. Clement said, "And how is he Savior and Lord, if not the Savior and Lord of all? But he is the Savior of those who have believed, because of their wishing to know, and Lord of those who have not believed, till being enabled to confess him." Clement must have been familiar with this passage from 1 Timothy. This is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance, and for this we labor and strive, that we have put our hope in the living God, who is the Savior of all men, and especially of those who believe. Didymus said, "In the liberation of all, no one remains a captive." Let's take a look at the Council of Constantinople. Notice the two Gregories. One presides, and one adds clauses to the creeds. It's highly unlikely that these two men who believed and taught the salvation of all would be put in charge of this council if it was considered heresy at the time. Also noteworthy is the fact that the creeds do not include any information about eternal torment, only life. Christian Universalism was removed from the Church by a proponent of eternal torment, the Emperor Justinian. He did it in the following manner. He began by closing the schools. Then he ordered the condemnation of Christian Universalism. At first, his orders were refused, but at the Fifth General Council, he had his way. I realize that the information presented today might be hard for some of you to digest. I just encourage you to know why you believe what you believe. I also invite any objections or questions. I'd like to leave you with this thought. It is the glory of God to keep a thing a secret, but the glory of kings is to have it searched out.